What's up, fellas? I'm going to show you some of the stuff I've been doing with the Trooper car last, I guess, week or so. But first, little background, little story time. When I was a kid growing up in Wisconsin, we didn't have a snowmobile. So, if you don't have a snowmobile, there's just plain drinking. I was too little for that. So my dad had slot car sets. So when I got old enough to make some money on my own or get money, I bought my own slot cars because I couldn't mess with his. First thing I would do is take out the windshield and the back window. That came out in one piece. I'd take the front A-pillars and shorten them a little bit so that the whole roof acted like a spoiler to get downforce on it. Then I would take like a little drill bit and I'd make little holes, not all the way through holes, but little dimples in the chassis. You can't get carried away and make it so weak that it won't support the engine when you try to accelerate with it. I found that out. But just it was all stuff trying to make the cars lighter. See, when I was little, my dad subscribed to Hot Rod magazine, so I was getting all these going through all of his old magazines and seeing some of the cars that people were building. They weren't all the fancy ones, but they were getting like these fuel tanks off the bombers from World War II and putting an engine in it, chassis, making a chassis for it. And looking back, I wouldn't drive some of those things across the street, but they were driving them, going out at the salt flats, trying to set speed records or going drag racing with them. And they were kind of nuts. So I kind of like, the basic premise of drag racing is the lighter the weight, then the faster you can accelerate, the weight remaining. So if you got a light car, you don't need all that much power to accelerate and go fast. So that's kind of what I was trying to recall in my mind, keep it in mind when I was monkeying with the front fenders. I took some weight out of the front fenders, the header panel, and the turn signal brackets. And of course I took off the lower core support. That was just a few pounds, but I'll get you off here and show you what I've been doing so far. All right, so this is the passenger side fender. I weighed these before I started, and then I wrote it down on something. So I think these are roughly 13, a little over 13 pounds, 13.4 I think is what I got. Kind of comes to mind. So all I did was cut this part out here in the front, and then cut out this part. And you can't even tell once you put that plastic piece back on. And then I just made a bunch of holes up through here. There was a bolt and a nut through here, but I got rid of it, and then I just put one little rivet right here. And the part that went around here that kind of held in the splash shield, I got rid of that. I just trimmed a little bit off the seam. And then I did the same here. That used to be pretty fat. And then I just left it where the tabs were. And then I cut this here and up to that. And then that across there. And there was like a big bracket in here. I got rid of that. Welded this to here so I'd still have some support in the back. And then there was a big heavy, not really heavy, but just a big bracket that went in the back there. Got rid of those things. The fender now is 11.6 pounds, so we got 2.5 pounds out of it, I reckon. Same with that one. And then the header panel, this is all fiberglass, and it weighed 9 pounds. And it's right at 7 now. Of course, I didn't have these on it. These are the brackets that mount here for the turn signals. I'll probably, there's 2 screws holding it on. I'll probably just put one rivet here in the middle because it's kind of sandwiched in between the bumper cover and the header panel. I took a hole saw. I just went around through the whole thing and just made a bunch of holes, basically, is all it is. I didn't look here before I started making a hole, but there's like a reinforcement on the back, so then I had to revise my hole positioning. And then over here was a smaller area, so I had to get the smaller hole saw. And then what I'm going to do is, when I get the power washer out to clean that, I'll hose this off real good, and then paint it. And then these are the brackets I fabbed up for to hold the turn signals. These mount up here about like so, and it goes right up snug against the back of the bumper cover. I had a bracket that went over this way and that way and then that way, and then I mounted it to the chassis where the bumper strut was, but that was just a lot of metal, and this worked out pretty good. I think Brad is the one turned me on to doing it this way, and it works pretty good. So that took some more weight out of it. The bumper cover itself, I really don't get much weight out of it. I might, got some holes on the bottom. I did take out that one rib here in the middle. I just got to smooth it out a little bit. That bumper cover weighs like 15 pounds by itself. And I think that was about it. That bucket right there is all the brackets and whatever I've taken out of the car so far, except for the core support, and I think it's right at 8 pounds, a little over 8. I didn't put the fiberglass pieces because that's all going to the recycling guy. And I have fiddled with the engine a little bit. I popped out all the freeze plugs so I can stick the power washer in there and get some of that yumminess out. And I have this old Boss 302 windage tray. There we go. And I bought some bolts, and I had these whiz nuts, so I just wanted to make sure that I had enough adjustability to get it so it would clear. And then what I got to do is weld these on like so, and then put them back in, and then put this on and adjust it. Ideally, when you put it on, you want to have this, that's probably ain't going to sit right now, but you want to have like an 1/8 of an inch clearance between any rotating parts and the windage tray so that it can collect oil off of it. These aren't the best. The screen mesh style are the best, but I don't have one, and I have this one, so I'm going to use it. And let's see, I think that's about it so far with the car. I've got the EFI wiring out. I've got to go, planning to go to my work. I got some stuff to wash in the parts washer, and so I'm going to work on the wiring harness, get it straightened up, there's a lot of wires in there that don't need to be in there, like to the AC relay, the tab and dad solenoids, that stuff. I'm going to take it all out, and then do the same with the wiring in the car, all the heater controls, all that stuff, that can go out. Oh, some of the weight off the fender was undercoating. Why the Florida Highway Patrol car needs to have an undercoating in it, in the fenders. It was like Z-Bart style, and people from up north probably familiar with that, but I don't know why it was in there, but I sprayed alcohol on it, let it soak for a little bit, and then took a green scrub pad, and it came right off. So that was probably a pound by itself because it was pretty heavily on there. That's about it. So that's where I'm at. Start just kind of cleaning stuff up, get the engine ready, probably get the engine ready this week, and gonna go put the heads back on, a head on there because the machine shop still ain't got mine done, and I'll just use the other heads. Will go on Vincent's 331. So whenever we get to that. So all right, appreciate y'all fellas. Later. What's up, fellas? So we're on the way over to Pensacola, riding in the LTD here. You see, we got the old girl with us. I don't know how fast we're going, probably around 75 or 80. Pulling a trailer. I don't know if you can see all that back there, but yeah, we got some seats to port in the facility for Rod to store. See if somebody wants to buy them, they can buy them. I got a toolbox for Brandon. I'm gonna drop by his place, and I got a set of wheels that Timmy is gonna get. He's just got to take the drag radials off because I don't need drag radials no more. I got nothing with automatic. So I'm sure we'll have more shenanigans once I pick up Rodster. I'm gonna pick him up at his place and then head out to the facility to drop this stuff off. And then go to Brandon's, drop some stuff off there, and then maybe to the junkyard if the weather is going to cooperate. Right now it looks sketchy, but we'll see what happens in a little while. Weather fairy said it was going to be sunny, or mostly sunny with occasional clouds. They nailed that one. Alright, we'll catch you all next clip. What's up, fellas? So I pulled a couple plugs out of, whoa, a little too much there. Pull the plugs out of MIB, just a couple. I knew I had issues with number 4, and this is number 6. You see, I knew it was oil. I don't know why, but it's got oil I replaced. I resealed the intake stud twice, and I've put new valve seals on twice, and it's still the same, so it's got to be something in the oil ring, I think. This is number 5. That looks fine. It's been sitting here idling. I idled it for, I don't know, 3 minutes or so yesterday afternoon when I got back from Pensacola. That's not a good thing. I've been smelling oil. So I don't know what's going on with it, but I know I don't like it, so I'll figure something out. The compression, when I did compression on it a few weeks back, they were all like 170 to 180, mostly at 175, so I don't think it's the top rings. It's got to be an oil ring. Something got in the cylinder and scratched it. I don't know. So I just was curious how they looked. I'm in the midst of cleaning out the attached garage. Good times on a Sunday morning. That is all stuff from the carpet for the trooper car. I put it back in here just because I was trying to get stuff out of my way and make some room. My old slicks, and then my new ones that I pumped up in like October and still haven't ran yet. Still got good air pressure in them, both of them. So that Dawn dish soap trick worked. I just got to get the polisher on them, get the fronts mounted with those tires, and Vincent's got his 10 holes back there he needs to get tires for, and get some fronts. He'll be in business with that one. So I'm scheming on some things to do with this, and once I get to a couple things done on the trooper car this afternoon, I'll throw all of this garbage together. I didn't take any video yesterday in Pensacola with Rod. He's like quick draw McGraw with that camera, his phone, and whipping it out and starting the video. So all I did was a little bit on the bridge on the way to Pensacola. So, but if you saw, you'll see his channel. I'm sure you saw it on there. So anyway, I'll a little bit more tonight. I'll add it, and then we'll be done with this thing. Later, fellas. Hey guys. I figured I'd show you where I was at with this thing, so I can finally put the video up online. It's been a while since I did an update on this, but I just had the head on. I was checking piston to valve clearance. Even though I'm running the same kind of cam as I did before, I advanced it 4 degrees. So I wanted to double check that I wasn't going to be close with the piston to valve clearance, and it looks like it's going to be all right. So I had a speed density cam in here before. I still have that cam. I'm just going to probably sell it, and then I'm running a it's a later model HO cam. I don't know what year it is. Ford don't put their markings or anything on them, but in my engine modeling software, the later model cam has a little bit more intake duration, so it tended to carry a little bit, let me get my hand puppet in there, a little bit more past peak than the speed density cam. So the speed density cam at 50,000, this is like 211, 210, and then that varies from lobe to lobe to lobe. They're wildly inconsistent. The later model HO cam is like 215, 210 intake to exhaust duration. Still got the same lift. Still 115 intake center line. So I advanced this 4 degrees, so it'll be at 111. Typically, depending on the combination, the intake center line's like 108 to You know, it depends. But like a carbureted application, they usually run a little more intake center line will be advanced on like 107, 108, depending on the combination. Later model cars have been running bigger heads, bigger intake, all that stuff, and then they'll have the small cam, but they'll have it dialed back, so the intake center line's 115, 117, 119. I think the Hemis are actually like 121, something like that. So they run a smaller cam, big heads, and all that. So that's essentially what I'm doing here. But Ed Curtis suggested advancing at 4 degrees, and he said it does help. So because I've got to have a Victor Jr., you know, short runner intake, but I'm still staying EFI. So anyway, so that's the issue. The only change really, what I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing. This is a billet roller timing set that came off of Vincent's 331. I think he had like 20,000 miles on it. A little loose there, but that's not horrible. You're not supposed to run a billet roller cam with a Saudi cam core. That's what is it? Something ductile iron. SADA. I can't think of it right now, but SADI. So Saudi. I can't think of what the first two stands for. But anyway, you're not supposed to run a billet steel cam gear or timing set with a ductile iron cam. I'm gonna, just because I want to be able to advance the cam, and the other one didn't have the timing marks so for that. So I've got it, and it's still decent, I think, so I'm going to use it. The only things I did to the block really were to put a little bevel on these holes back here, on the oil drain back holes. Then I epoxied. I got little 1.25" discs of like 60 thousandths aluminum. And all that's doing, it's not blocking the holes completely, it's just kind of restricting them. That's just to get the oil to go down here instead of going down onto the cam and then falling on the crank and creating more windage. So just to put the oil back into the pan as quick as possible without it having splashing all over the cam and the crank. It's going to have a high pressure pump. It's going to get plenty of oil flung up on the, you know, on the connecting rods and up on the wrist pins and all that. So I think we'll be fine. And what else did I do? I made these holes a little bit bigger here. And normally I would like flatten that to make it like a D on its, laying on its back, you know, to make this, cut that lip out of there. But I forgot this time. That's again just to get the oil out of the lifter valley back down into the pan as quick as possible. And then I did here on the drain back holes on the block, because the typically it's like the holes don't line up in the block for what's on the head gasket, so I put a little bevel on there. Again, like I said, just to get the oil down. These two, the front ones drain into the, up here into where the chiming chain's at. They come out like right over here and right in here. And, you know, I still got to put the windage tray on. So this, really the only difference this engine will have from the last one is these holes here and then the windage tray, and then much smaller rocker arms. I won't have a 1.7, I got 1.6s. I'll do that next week when I set this up. Or, yeah, next week when I put the video up of me. I'll set it up, and then you'll be able to see what those rocker arms are. They are typical substandard garbage. You'll see. The head gaskets are used also. Vince had them on his 331, so they're in pretty good shape. I'm just going to clean them off with some alcohol and then shoot them with this. Put 3 coats of this on, and they'll be just fine. They'll work just fine. Won't be no issues. And like I said, I'm going to use the same heads just because I got them here, and the other guy at the machine shop ain't got them done yet. Same lifters, same high pressure pump, same front cover. I'm just going to use a different balancer. I got another new balancer. I just got to put a sleeve on it so it don't leak up here at the front. And I've got to put a sleeve on the crank in the back and a new seal when I get the pan on. And that is essentially it. That we'll wrap this up. I'll finally get this garbage up on the YouTubes and get it off my phone. So we'll have more next week. Hopefully more interesting and not as long. All right, appreciate y'all. Later.